Thank you very much, Elizabeth. And again, thank you for District 71 for inviting me back. And as I said, my only regret is that I can't be there to enjoy each other with you. I've had some just wonderful trips to the Isles there, and there are some favorite parts of my world. A couple of things I just want to point up front to warn everybody. First of all, I'm not politically correct. So if you're expecting a politically correct speech, you might want to just tune out right now, because I'm not. The other thing is I don't pull my punches. I think in order to get to the bottom and find solutions, to get to the bottom of problems and find solutions, we have to be able to openly discuss the problem. And as I like to tie a story into different points, in 2013, I went in the hospital with severe right side pain, and they took my appendix out. And that wasn't the problem. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm a little attached to my organs. I don't like people yanking organs out of my body just on a whim. I had a spastic iliopsoas muscle, and probably a week of painkillers, I would have been fine. Instead, I had 6 weeks of recovery, and I'm now missing an appendix. And so in order to get a correct solution, we have to get a correct diagnosis, and able to do that, we have to be able to openly talk about the problems we have, the issues we're facing. And with that, the first thing I want to talk about is that Toastmasters is an imperfect system. It is not a perfect system. And when I first got into Toastmasters and I was looking at how to run my club, I was thinking all the other clubs in Toastmasters are doing great, and we're the only ones struggling to figure out how to make our club work. I don't know if anybody else has ever felt like I'm the only one struggling with this club. Everybody else seems to be doing great with their club. The truth of the matter is most of the clubs in Toastmasters around the world are struggling. Most of the clubs in Toastmasters around the world are under 20 members, and they've been under 20 members since I got in 30 years ago, and they were under 20 members 30 years before that. And Toastmasters has never effectively cracked how to build a large, successful club. My club did, and I'm going to share some of those things with you. So what I want to sort of approach this evening on is the fact that Toastmasters gives us tools to build our club. They don't build our club for us. And it's not like we have a complete recipe. You open up a cookbook and it says, if you mix these ingredients, you'll get this cake. Well, in Toastmasters, you open up the Toastmasters book and it says, here are the tools you have. With the line that's missing in that is that you have to figure out how to use those tools. So I want to address a couple issues right up front that I discovered in our club and some things that were holding us back. And just so you understand, I've shared this story before, but we had about 35 people when I joined Toastmasters in 1992 attending my club. It was 2 years old at that point, or 3 years old at that point. About 6 months later, we had 12 coming to the meeting. Okay, so we were losing membership. We weren't sure what was happening. One day, 5 of us showed up. We had coffee. We didn't have a meeting. We sat around drinking coffee, and a couple critical things happened in that meeting. We decided if we're going to do Toastmasters, let's win with it, or let's go do something else and win with it. And it's what I call, we didn't want to run a hospice Toastmasters club. You know, hospice Toastmasters, that's where we keep the members comfortable until the club dies. And there's a lot of clubs out there that are like that. They're like 5, 6, 7 members, and they just won't die. They just keep going on and on and on, but they don't grow either. They don't come alive. The other thing was that in order to win with Toastmasters, we decided, the 5 of us, to be a top 10 club in Toastmasters. And this is back when Toastmasters International used to rank all the clubs based on the distinguished club program that they had back then. And you got points for everything you did. You got points for every new member. You got points for every educational completion. You got points for every newsletter you sent out. And I love that program. I'm not a fan of the current distinguished club program. I've been very vocal about that, because you can be president's distinguished and have a failing, struggling club. That being said, there's no reason every club isn't president's distinguished, because it is a very low bar to meet. You should be doing a minimally being president's distinguished with your clubs. But what turned us around is we had a goal. We decided to do something. We decided to win with Toastmasters. And it was really that game of becoming a top 10 club that drove the club. And everybody didn't sign on up front. It wasn't like everybody goes, yes, let's go do it. We had to start slowly. And I'll tell you a couple things, a couple turning points that were very critical that turned the club around. And I want you to look at this with your clubs. The first thing we did is we called the members in the club, and we didn't say, why aren't you coming to the meeting anymore? We didn't ask them that question. We said, what did you enjoy about coming to the meeting? And the number one thing they told us was that they wanted to have fun. And the second reason they told us was they wanted to see their friends. And the third reason they told us is they wanted to get the improvement Toastmasters offered. And we realized immediately why our club was failing. We had stopped being a fun, friendly environment. We had 2 presidents in a row that were not fun and friendly. And so we have our own policy in our club. We write out different things that work. The number one policy that we have is we have to maintain a fun, friendly environment. And it's very simple. If we have a speech that upsets a lot of members, or we get some bad speech evaluation that upsets somebody, we have a table topics that stirs the pot, or we have a toxic individual that comes in the meeting and they start to sort of chew up different people and they're hostile to different folks and things like that. And it starts to make it not fun to come to the meeting. Our membership starts to drop off. So we monitor all these things. And so one of the things is making sure it's a fun, friendly environment. I cannot understate that. And actually the reason, I'll show you how I came to join Toastmasters, is I had a friend of mine invite me to the club 8 times. I had to be asked to come to the club 8 times. And he didn't say, you're a horrible speaker, Lance. There is growth and development that you can have in your life. That's not what he was telling me. He said, we had so much fun. You should have been at the meeting. We had so much fun. He sold the fun. And I came to the meeting, and this is your membership building component of tonight. I came to the meeting for 2 reasons. I wanted to see what he was so excited about. I didn't want to join the club, but I wanted to see what he was so excited about. And the second reason was I knew he would not stop asking me to come to the meeting until I came. Now, think about how many people we've asked to come to Toastmasters and they didn't come and went, oh, I don't want to upset them. If Glenn Barton had not been a pain in my posterior for about 6 or 7 weeks, inviting me every week, enthusiastic about his club, we're having fun, I wouldn't be in Toastmasters. My life would be on a completely different path. And I'm so thankful that he persisted wanting me to have fun. So let's just nail that one right there. Now, I'm going to get into a couple other points, but here is a critical thing I've seen a lot of clubs suffer from, and my club suffered from it. And that is, when I joined Toastmasters, I was not looking to be the CEO of a new local nonprofit that taught communication and leadership and build it into a worldwide force. I was trying to develop my own skills. So I looked at the people that were ahead of me in the club as being advanced to what I was, and I would learn from them. So when there was a problem in the club, I didn't say, I have to solve that problem. I did. I'm going to flip my screen here for just a second. I'd use what's called an SEP. Now, if anybody's ever read Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, a wonderful author from your neck of the woods, an SEP is known as somebody else's problem. So when there was a problem in the club, I looked at it that somebody should solve that problem. I didn't say I should solve the problem. Somebody should solve the problem. The problem we had was everybody else in the club was saying somebody should solve that problem. Because really, when it came down to it, I'm saying nobody owned the club. In a business, somebody owns the business. And what will happen is you have a problem coming along and the business owner will solve that problem or his business will die. In Toastmasters, we all got into Toastmasters to develop ourselves. We didn't get into it from a standpoint of wanting to be the owner of the club, and this is our club and we're going to run with it. But what happened in my club, the 5 of us that decided to build a championship club, to be a top 10 club, we started to own the club. And when you own the club, you start solving the problems of the club. And the simplicity is there's problems in the club that aren't covered in the Toastmasters training, which gets up to my next point. Here's what I see, what happens to us in Toastmasters, or happens to us in life, rather. We're born, and when we're young, we have a tremendous amount of creativity and free will. And I hope we all agree. When we were kids, it was like life was an exciting day. I don't know if you remember Saturday, but I used to get up as a kid and it was Saturday. Saturdays lasted all day for me, man. I'd get up and I had no school and it was Saturday. And I was so excited about Saturday. And I'd go outside and I'd, play Army for an hour, come back in, get a glass of water, go ride my bike, come in, and be an hour later, I'd go out and I'd play Cowboys and Indians, and it wasn't even lunchtime yet. I wake up now, blink, and it's Sunday morning. I blink again, it's Monday morning. What happened? I had all this free will and energy. And then there were these other people in my life called parents, or I'm going to call authorities, the big people. And they teach us how we're supposed to behave. And we learn, at least I did, that life was a lot more enjoyable if I was aligned with my parents versus being perpendicular to my parents. And it was a lot less painful. And there was a point where I started to do something or say something, and I looked at mom and dad and said, what would they do or say if I did that? And at that moment, and I'm asking you if you did the same thing, at that moment, who we started to become the author of our thoughts and actions? The big people. I went to school for 12 years through my regular school, 4 years of university. I was taught what seat to sit in at what time and to study what other people figured out. I was never taught to stand up and give an original thought. I wasn't taught to figure things out for myself. I was taught how to study what other people figured out. And as long as I showed up on time and I kept the teacher, the authority happy, I got to succeed. Then I got a job and sit at this seat, come in on time, don't rock the boat. And if we like you someday, we'll promote you. And to a large degree, and it happened to me lesser than it happened to a lot of people, we turn over our future, we turn over our creativity, we turn over our ability to forge our future to the authorities, waiting for somebody to give us permission to do that. And what I see in Toastmasters is a lot of people show up in Toastmasters and sit in the seat at the right time, waiting for their club to succeed. And the club, there is no higher authority in the club than the members of the club. It's up to the club to make the club succeed. And that was a hard pill to swallow when I was first looking at it. And when I was president of my club, I realized that the success of the club was a direct reflection of my leadership ability. Nobody else was there. There was no higher authority above me going to come in and correct it, as there had always been throughout my entire life. The first time when I got to run a Toastmasters club, it was the first time I got to run an entire organization as the senior executive with nobody over my shoulder telling me what to do. I got to discover my strengths and my weaknesses. But the truth of the matter was I had to look at it every day. When things weren't going right, I had to realize that was a reflection of my leadership ability. And the success of your club right now is a reflection of the cumulative leadership in your club, because there is no higher authority that's going to build your club. So what happens to us is, just to fill in, is just we get hypnotized by the authorities. And then we join Toastmasters and we come in and we say, create your world for 4 to 6 minutes with an icebreaker. Here's how bad it is. We pass out. That's how bad this has gotten. Toastmasters, to me, primarily is an environment that we learn how to start creating our lives again. We learn how to start creating, taking ownership for us. And it's a safe place to make mistakes. It's a safe place to screw up. We learn how to do that. Now,